Hi, thanks for joining myself, Steve Hayes, and Michael Darby from Element as we talk to you about Wi-Fi. Clearly, everybody's heard about Wi-Fi. Who hasn't? But Wi-Fi isn't just one thing. So we want to have a quick conversation, chat about the evolution of Wi-Fi, I guess. So Wi-Fi came around, when was the first Wi-Fi?
In the 90s.
Was it really?
Late 90s, yeah. And I think we used to refer to it as IEEE 802.11b.
Yeah.
I can picture the little shape of the signal.
That's right, yeah.
The late 1990s. In fact, I was radio testing those devices at the time. I think you would call it Wi-Fi 1 or Wi-Fi 2. Then I remember when 802.11g got added.
That's right, yeah. And the original one, it was at 2.4 gigahertz.
All at 2.4 gigahertz, yeah, exactly, in the ISM band.
Yeah. So why, ISM band, what ISM? Industrial, Scientific and Medical.
Yeah.
These are regulated by the ITU, frequency bands, worldwide applicability, and designed for classical ISM devices. So microwave oven, 2.4 gigahertz. Mm-hmm. So why would I put Wi-Fi at 2.4 gigahertz as well?
Well, there's a few reasons I should imagine. With hindsight, I do often wonder if they would go back and go, if we had known how popular Wi-Fi was going to be, would we have found a dedicated frequency band for it?
Yeah.
I think just a combination of a frequency that works well at the distance, was available for harmonized use, had a reasonable amount of bandwidth. At the time, it seemed like a reasonable amount of bandwidth, 5 or 10, 20 megahertz wide channels, probably seemed perfectly sufficient. In fact, I used to go to Etsy and write the standards, EN 300, 328 for Wi-Fi. And I remember being in a meeting when a manufacturer first proposed the idea that they had a Wi-Fi that might have more than 20 megahertz wide channels. Everybody was quite shocked at that idea.
Yeah.
And now look at us.
And obviously microwave ovens, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Zigbee.
Yeah.
Really very congested band for communication and change of power or use for power in the case of microwave ovens. So after 2.4 gig then, very congested, Wi-Fi 5 gig band.
Yeah, Wi-Fi 5 gig band. Interestingly, I think I did the European testing on one of the very first 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi devices.
Well, there you go.
When the standard EN 301893 was not even an option.
Yeah. And then I guess advantage of 5 gig is more bandwidth, therefore faster speeds.
Yeah, bigger channels.
Disadvantage, higher frequency, probably the distance it communicates over is shorter.
Yeah,
and today
exactly.
That's still the case, right?
I mean, effectively, we kind of think, it's only just a little bit higher than 2.4 gig, but it's double, isn't it?
Exactly.
2.5 to 5, pretty simple maths. So not only do you lose a bit of range and a bit of penetration, but also you're now in a situation where different regions of the world don't have exactly the same frequency bands. Yeah. So not as easy for a manufacturer to just say, here's my product, I'm going to sell it globally. Yeah. Now you've got to say, well, the USA bands are not the same as the European bands, for example. And you have what's known as an incumbent band user, so weather radar, for example, where really quite critical radio. And so we have these extra tests where the radio has to be able to check, is somebody using my channel? And if they are, then I'm not going to use that.
Yeah.
And for us as a user, we do notice that because it takes a lot of data rate for the Wi-Fi to check that channel. And actually that ends up being a problem because people hear, perhaps through the internet, I've learned that if I go into my settings and if I select some other region, my data rate improves.
Yeah.
Well, it's because you've turned off this channel checking capability.
Yeah, exactly. That's Wi-Fi 5 gig.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi 6?
So when we talk about Wi-Fi 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, we're actually talking about protocols there and things like channel bandwidth, modulation type, cool features. But you will have heard of Wi-Fi 6E, and that relates to an extended frequency band that was created around the time of Wi-Fi 6E protocol. So this is, sometimes we refer to it as 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi. But again, there's different frequency bands. So the USA's 6 gigahertz band actually goes up to 7.125, whereas the EU's goes up to 6 point something gigahertz, and the UK's is slightly different to the EU's. And so the sort of Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7, which is the exciting thing for us at the moment. The protocol has cool features like channel puncturing, where it can take out parts of a channel, or it can add parts of a channel together to really get massive amounts of data rate.
So don't confuse Wi-Fi 6 with Wi-Fi 6E. Those
Correct.
are two different things.
That's
One
right.
is about the frequency, Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 6E is the change of protocol that you're talking about.
Other way around.
Yes.
Wi-Fi 6 is a protocol step,
Yeah.
and Wi-Fi 6E is the frequency band extension up to 6 gigahertz, for example.
Yeah.
And it's funny, it's one of those things as well where you always have to remember, people, regulators, standards bodies, they don't just sit back, eyes shut, creating regulations in advance of a technology. You have a situation where technology comes along and then the regulations catch up. And that's fine. If you have a regime like in Europe where we have harmonized standards, standards can be rewritten and changed quite quickly. Whereas regions like the USA, maybe a technology comes along, the FCC write a rule, and then the technology changes, and then the FCC might go, oh, no, our rule, we didn't see that coming, and our rule is set. So, for example, with Wi-Fi 6 in the 6E frequency band, and they wrote the rules, and it was things like, when you do a test, if there's somebody else on the channel, your radio has to vacate that channel. Then when you get Wi-Fi 7 protocol, it has a cool feature where it can take out a section of a channel called channel puncturing, where it can drop that bit of channel out. And then the FCC go, well, no, we've written must vacate the channel. And so then you're like, oh, we've written this cool feature, but actually the rules say something else. And so technology and the regulations advancing at different paces. It's just exciting challenges, really.
And you were talking about the original Wi-Fi 2.4 gig at 20 meg channels. Wi-Fi 7's what, 320 meg?
Yeah, 320 meg wide channels.
And it can actually do, if you like, carrier aggregation, so it can join the channels together to get even more data throughput, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it can have bits of channel, resource units. I think they call it.
And I guess Wi-Fi 8 is the next thing that's coming along.
Not yet, but it's the next thing that people are talking about.
And Wi-Fi 7, if you are interested and want to know more about Wi-Fi 7, we do actually have a webinar that was done on it, so be sure to go and check some of our other sort of content and material, because that's a really good in-depth look at Wi-Fi 7. You were talking about some of the work that you used to do as a test engineer, the first to test a Wi-Fi 5 gig type product. I think Element was one of the first to test Wi-Fi 7 products as well, actually. Right. So that's really cool. And so, across Element, we've got a lot of really deep level of expertise in the technology and the regulatory approval that's needed for that.
And it's funny because you kind of look and you think, well, you mentioned about microwave ovens. My old kitchen, I knew that my microwave oven was leaking because whenever we put something in the microwave, our Wi-Fi and Bluetooth speaker would stop working. And so that's when I knew that my microwave was leaking. And so it's very easy to say, well, this is an unlicensed frequency band. People can use anything in this band. That's a risky place to put communication that you rely on. And so you do see this kind of, well, what about cellular? And not so much a battle, but definitely a conflict between the Wi-Fi world and the cellular world, almost competing. But when you look at harmonized standards in the EU and you look at rule part certifications in the USA, definitely Wi-Fi is still massively
Yeah.
the highest amount of certifications and most common standards.
And in fact, I mean, we're seeing it in the test labs now. You know, Wi-Fi used in automotive applications, Wi-Fi used in medical applications. These are all different use cases for that technology. So yeah, really quite a lot of proliferation of the technology in all these different end markets.
Yeah. How many Wi-Fi enabled products do you think you have in your home?
Yeah, well, we were just joking before, weren't we? I think I switched mine on, looked the other day, 34, 35 devices.
Yeah. It seems crazy, but when you add it up, there they all are.
Yeah. Okay, thanks very much for tuning in. That's Wi-Fi. If you want any more info about it, then don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, but also go onto element.com for any other material that we've got on this and related articles. Thanks again. Cheers.